On a warm and quiet afternoon, Abraham sat at the entrance of his tent, resting in the gentle stillness of the day. The air was calm, the desert sands glowing softly beneath the sun. Nothing seemed unusual. It was just another peaceful moment in Abraham's long journey of following God. Yet, in that calm silence, something unexpected appeared. When Abraham lifted his eyes, 3 men were standing nearby, as if they had arrived without a sound. Their presence was unusual, mysterious, and filled with a quiet authority. Abraham rose immediately and welcomed them with humility and honor. He invited them to rest beneath the tree, offered water for their feet, and prepared a meal for them. While they ate, the visitors observed the home of Abraham, and one of them spoke a message that seemed impossible in human understanding. He said that Sarah, Abraham's wife, would bear a son within the coming year. Inside the tent, Sarah heard these words and quietly laughed. She was old, well past the age of childbearing. The idea of having a child seemed not just unlikely, but completely unrealistic. Yet the visitor questioned her reaction and reminded her of a truth that stands, unchanged through all generations. Nothing is too hard for the Lord. And with that quiet but powerful assurance, the visitors continued on their way, leaving behind a promise that would soon reshape Abraham and Sarah's lives forever. As the seasons changed and time moved forward, God's promise unfolded with perfect accuracy. Sarah conceived just as the Lord had said, and eventually the sound of a newborn's cry filled their tent. The child was named Isaac, meaning laughter, for God had turned Sarah's disbelief into joy. She said that all who heard her story would laugh with her, not in mockery, but in amazement at the faithfulness and power of God. Abraham looked upon his son with deep gratitude, understanding that the God who had called him, who had sustained him through every step of his journey, who had led him from his homeland, had once again proven his word true. But soon, Abraham faced a test unlike anything he had ever experienced before. One day, the voice of God called to him, and Abraham responded faithfully, as he always had. "Here I am." Then came the instruction, unexpected, heavy and deeply painful. God told Abraham to take Isaac, his only son, the child of promise, and offer him as a sacrifice on a mountain that God would show him. There is no record of Abraham arguing or questioning the command. Instead, he rose early the next morning, prepared the journey, and set out with Isaac. The weight in his heart must have been immense, but his trust in God remained firm. For 3 days they traveled, and each step carried a mixture of silence, reflection, and obedience. At one point on the journey, Isaac noticed something unusual. They had the wood, the fire, and everything needed for a sacrifice, except the animal itself. With innocent curiosity, he asked his father about it. Abraham replied with simple faith, telling him that God himself would provide the offering. And so they continued climbing the mountain together. When they reached the place God had revealed, Abraham built an altar and arranged the wood. His actions were steady and deliberate, though his heart was surely trembling within him. At the final moment, as Abraham prepared to carry out the command, a voice from heaven called out urgently, stopping him instantly. God told him not to harm the boy, and revealed that this test had proven Abraham's reverence and obedience. In that same moment, Abraham noticed a ram caught by its horns in a thicket. He offered it in place of Isaac. He then named the location the Lord will provide, a name that would serve as a reminder that God's provision arrives precisely at the moment it is needed. Then the Lord spoke again, reaffirming his covenant with Abraham. God promised that Abraham's descendants would be as countless as the stars in the sky, and that through his offspring, the sand on the seashore, all nations of the earth would one day be blessed. Abraham received these words with humility and gratitude, knowing that the God who tested him was the same God who sustained him, strengthened him, and fulfilled every promise made to him. If this story of Abraham, Sarah, and Isaac touched your heart, take a quiet moment to reflect. What promise are you still waiting on God to fulfill? Please subscribe to Lightning Roots. Share this story with someone who needs encouragement. You can share a favorite Bible verse, a symbol of faith, or a short prayer from your heart.